Cool. So let's finish this hypotheticality series. All right. And here we're going to talk about expressing things that happened when and a while ago, things that happened in past events that you can recall, right? And it's going to help you build a good foundation with expressing what you did when you were, back in the past, or maybe when you were a kid, or events that happened that were already completed somewhere long ago in the past timeline, right? Okay, the first one is kung or kon. Now, we already learned kung or kon or whatever derivatives and variations they have as if, right? As the conjunction if. However, kung and kon can also they can also express when if you look at it in some perspective, right? So they can express when in some sort of manner, right? And if we take a look at these example sentences, you'll see. Now, we learned it as if to be a conjunction, right? So, for example, things, if you remember, you can say something like, kung ako, dili mo blah, 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 or mo blah, 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 right? It doesn't matter what your clause is going to follow, but, this first part here says, if it were me, yeah, or if it were me, or if it, I guess since it's not subjunctive, you can say if it was me, but if it were me, I would blah, 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 or I will blah, 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 right? Or if you want to say a negative, I wouldn't blah, 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 or I will not blah, 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 right? And you can also use that for like past expressions as well, and you'll see it towards the end, okay? But kung can translate to things like if, so you can say things like if it were me, or if this, if that, and it doesn't really matter. But you can also, here we're going to learn how it can also express when, okay? The first sentence reads, magkonsulta ko sa mananambal kung sakit na kaayo, okay? And you can translate this as I'm going to consult with the doctor, or I'm going to go consult with the doctor when it gets painful, when it gets really painful. Consequently, you can also say, I'm gonna go consult with the doctor if it gets really painful. So the if and when, it can be I guess interchangeable here. And that's what I'm trying to show you, is that instead of saying if, you can say when. And when you do say when, there is a degree of certainty that you're putting it now, right? Because you're going to go consult the doctor when it's going to start getting painful. When? Because it's going to start, you might know that it's going to start getting, or you might know that it will get painful, or you might not know it's going to get painful. So that's why it's when. Okay, you're putting a little degree of certainty, and we don't really discern the degree of certainty here, right? Unlike in English, they do, but here it doesn't really matter. Because if you translate it with if, it's still the same degree of certainty. You're gonna go if it starts to hurt more. You're gonna go when it starts to hurt more. So it doesn't really make a big difference here with the degree of certainty. Same with this second sentence. Kung ulahi ka sa tugpahanan, sundan ta ka lang. Okay, so if you're late at the airport, I'll come pick you up, or I'll come take you, or I'll come pick you up. All right, I'll just come pick you up if you're late for the airport, right? If you're late for the airport, I'll just come pick you up. So you can say if, but you can also say when. When you're late to the airport, I'll just come pick you up, right? There's that degree of certainty again. But in Cebuano, we don't discern, or we don't discriminate with the certainty for that in this statement if you're using this conjunction, if/when. Moving on, so we have our four little things our four little kind of time triggers that I want to share with you. And these time triggers are kind of important because they can help you express things that you did in your past life, in past events, right? And things that happened way long ago, okay? The first one we're going to examine is kaniadto, okay? Kaniadto. Now, kaniadto, I highlight, or I underlined ka, because ka is that prefix that is kind of similar to something with like causational, right? But if you don't have ka in there, you can substitute it with sa. But if you're gonna substitute it with sa, you need to make sure they're two separate words now. Sa niadto versus ka niadto, right? Saniadto or kaniadto, right? They both mean the same thing. They're just going to be two or one separate word with the ka prefix versus the sa preposition. Now, kaniadto means before, in the past, or back then, like, way back then, or sometime way back in the past, or way back when, before in the past, right? It has that meaning to it. And it has a meaning of just being so distant to you in terms of time. So if we are living and existing at this moment and you hear kaniadto, you know this is going to be distant, somewhere in the distant past in relation to you if you were on a timeline, okay? The example sentence I put here is kaniadto pa ang simbahan didto. So that means there was a church over there sometime along in the past, or way back in the past, right? Kaniadto pa ang simbahan didto. We're talking about a church. Ang simbahan is marked, right? It's our focal marker with ang, right? Didto meaning way over there, far away from you and me. Didto, right? So there was a church here still back in the past, but not anymore, right? In the current time that we're speaking, or in this present time as we are speaking, not anymore. But back then there was still a church there. There was still a church back there in the past, sometime long ago. The next one is sa una, right? And sa una, you can use this expression to express something that happened recently, like, not too recent but not too distant either. Okay, so that's just like half and half, not too distant but not too distant but not too recent. Okay, so it can translate to something like firstly or before, right? And again, before in the sense that it wasn't too distant in the past. It happened already, but it wasn't too distant. So our sentence here is dili parehas sa una nga libre pa ang hatagan nila. Oh, well, it wasn't, which translates to it wasn't the same as before, when their items that they were giving were free, right? Ang hatagan nila are the things that they were giving out for free. Whatever thing it could be, it's just not specific. Hatagan nila is the items or objects or whatever they were giving out. It was free before but not now, right? It's not the same as before. Dili pareho sa una, it's not the same as before. That nga libre pa ang hatagan nila, like that it was still free what they were giving. Okay. Where else is here? So again, it's just talking about like, oh, it just happened not too long ago, right? Dili pareho sa una. Now versus this one, sa unang panahon. Now this expresses something that did happen a long time ago, like very distant, okay? We're talking very distant, almost as distant as kaniadto, like before, way back in the past, okay? But sa unang panahon is more distant than sa una, okay? And our sentence is this: gikontrolado nila ang atong yuta, pero sa unang panahon pa na, right? Meaning they controlled our land, but that was already a long time ago. So that was already a long time ago, right? But sa unang panahon, a long time ago, pa, still, na, that, right? But that was already a long time ago that they controlled our land. So, boom. Okay, and then the last one here that I want to discuss is sa wala o sa dili pa. Okay, now, we talked about the aspect, right? The completed and incomplete, incepted, incepting, right? Again, your choice in how you want to express an event, whether whether an event has not started yet or an event has already started, will depend on whether you're going to use wala or dili. Okay, and wala expresses actions that have already started and have completed or still in the process, or dili, which expresses actions that haven't even started yet, right? So sa wala o dili pa means before, and it's relative, as in relative to you, meaning it's close by to us in terms of time. It's, I guess you can say it's progressive, but not really, but it's in terms of a timeline where we stand in the present moment in a timeline, this sa dili o wala pa will be closer to us, okay? And I'll show you a timeline just to make sure you understand. Our example sentence for this case is, Mohuman ba ka sa dili pa mi mulakaw? Will you be finished, right? Will you be finished when, or before, I guess you can say, will you be finished before we leave? Yeah, here's sa dili pa is before, but I guess in this case you can say when. Again, this whole video expresses the hypothetical situations, right? So will you finish before we leave? Will you finish when we leave? So it has that connotation to it, okay? Will you finish before we leave? Sa dili pa mi mulakaw, right? Before we leave. And as mentioned, here's the timeline that I want to explain to you, right? If we are here, right, here was the dot, and that's us, right? And that hash mark represents us in the present as we speak. We have these parentheses here. This parentheses and this to indicate sa dili and wala pa. Remember, dili is the incomplete incepting, right? So it's going to be here on the right, versus wala, which is the opposite, an incepted or a completed aspect, right? Sa dili pa right here, sa wala pa here, and that can express things near in our time. If we move back in time, right, we reach this hash mark that says sa una, right? And sa una is distant but not too distant, remember? Versus going back here, we have kaniadto and sa unang panahon, which express things that happened just already way past, okay? So I hope that can help you clear. Now, putting everything together, we can express things as, if I wanted to say something like, oh, when I was a kid, I would blah, 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 or I was blah, 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 I would have done blah, 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 blah. You can express things back in past events. Now, if you can start putting all of these together. So one way you can do it would be something like, and this is just an example, there are many ways you can go about with this. Sa una, comma, kon mag blah, 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 yeah, before, when I would blah, 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 or more blah, blah, blah. Again, you know how to construct the sentence. I'm not going to go there. But you can start putting things together like sa una, kung ako, blah, 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 or you can say sa una, kaniadto, or kaniadto kung blah, 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 or sa unang panahon nga kung blah, 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 blah. You can start putting all of these together to start helping you speak and articulate your Cebuano. So I hope this video helped in discerning more of this expression.